Good morning, everybody. I see a lot of people on their screens. Just want to make sure you're awake. My name's Ethan Berkowitz. I'm the mayor of Anchorage, Alaska, and it's a pleasure for me to be here today. And I'm speaking on behalf of my constituents and to some extent the mayors of the North. I'm joined here with the Mayor of Akureyri. We did something yesterday she's going to tell you about shortly. But I wanted to tell you something quickly about Anchorage and quickly about the North. Anchorage is the largest city in the biggest state in a nation that we're told will be great again one day. And we face a lot of challenges. We face challenges from a changing climate, we face challenges from a changing economic situation, and we face challenges from a changed political environment as well. And the message I have for all of you today is we have to go out past where we can see. We cannot continue to do things in the same way as we've done in the past and expect results to be different. In the Arctic, we are facing both foundational and aspirational challenges. We in the Arctic communities face challenges related to food and fuel and fiber and flights. For those of us who live in the North, being food self-sufficient and food insecure is a regular part of our existence, whether it's traditional foods gained through subsistence hunting or the importation of food from the South. It's about the high cost of fuel and the high cost of energy in many parts of the North. It's about the lack of fiber connectivity. It makes me wonder if there's infrastructure development all around the world, why is it that the North has been so slow to acquire the governmental support that's necessary for us to be fiber linked? Because in this information age, if our communities do not have fiber linkage, then we will be left behind and we will be left unable to defend for ourselves. And finally, the question of flights. Those of us in the North, to get from one community to the other, it's a long trip. We cannot fly directly. And I'd like to define the North in these terms. It is a place where the lines of longitude converge and where time zones condense. Why does it take us so long to get to one another? What should be a 4-hour trip is a 2-day trip. We can do better than that. So our challenges today are to do things differently than we've done before. Those are foundational challenges. The aspirational challenges are, for too long, the North has been viewed as a place to be exploited and studied. We are not that. We are a place with people and history. We would like to have a greater voice in our own self-determination. If that doesn't change, you're going to see increased resistance from the North about what's occurring to the South. There's a lot of discussion about extracting resources and infrastructure development and where the investment will come from. Include the North. And when that happens, we'll be willing partners for what comes next.
Thank you, Mayor Berkowitz. My name is Ásthildur Sturludóttir, and I'm the Mayor of Akureyri here in Iceland. And I'm proud to tell you that yesterday, mayors representing some of the world's northernmost cities came together in Akureyri to sign the Arctic Mayors Forum Foundation paper, thereby forming the Arctic Mayors Forum. This organization aims to give local government a voice in the development of the Arctic, an important step where 13 cities are joining hands in taking responsibility and making their own space and contributing to issues that affect them all directly by saying nothing about us without us. And together we are stronger. So, Mayor Berkowitz, thank you for your introductory words. There are a few questions I would like to ask you. You talked a lot about connectivity and infrastructure changes and development. So what do you think is the biggest challenge of the people of the Arctic? How can we preserve and strengthen their future?
There's a great diversity in the people of the North, and yet there's some very common themes that we all live with. We have shared identity. And whether they're people of Europe or people of Asia or people of North America, we confront the issues of dealing with the cold and the dark. We confront the issues of dealing with being connected to a global economy. And if we don't have access to that economy, if we are continually marginalized by lack of fiber connectivity, If we are kept distant at a time where the rest of the world has immediacy of access, then we will fall farther behind and become a burden. And that becomes incredibly problematic from a social perspective in terms of making sure that the communities in the North are healthy places for people to be. It becomes important for us in terms of not just retaining indigenous populations and local populations, because we have a problem with brain drain and brain waste, where we're not using our own capacity to the maximum extent possible, which diminishes our ability to exercise fate control. And that is a really critical criteria, not just for people of the North, but for people around the world. People want to have a voice in what is happening to them. And if we are excluded, it becomes increasingly problematic.
I certainly do agree. But because we were working on this Mayor's Compact yesterday, I would like to add to the question, how do you think that the local level can impact the governmental level, especially regarding the Arctic cooperation?
You know, mayors tend to be both pragmatic and optimistic. And when we do a quick survey of regional and national governments, we see tumult and chaos. And I think at the local level, we have the practical realities of dealing with what our constituencies need. That people expect their garbage to be picked up, they expect the lights to go on, they expect the water to flow. This doesn't happen everywhere, but these are the concerns. And so a lot of the manufactured chaos that we see at the international level is something that the local governments can provide an antidote for. We're stable. We're the one functional level of government that people can count on an ongoing basis. The international system is sort of a mess these days.
Yes, it is.
And our feeling at the mayoral level is that if we can do a small bit to help create a network between communities, we will help strengthen that international community at the same time that we're bringing benefit to our constituencies and stability to the world at large.
Should we get some questions from the crowd?
If they're not
or the audience?
If they're not on their screens, that would be great.
Are there any questions for Mayor Berkowitz? It's a one-time opportunity here at the Arctic Circle. Mayor Benewell from Nome.
Sorry, I wasn't there yesterday to sign the compact.
There's still time.
I will, my hero. I just want to make a comment. You mentioned the reality of mayoral and local governments and their responsibility to their constituency, no matter where it is. I've been to a number of these meetings over the years, and I'm going to kind of tell a tale on my country. My takeaway is always the same, and it frustrates me, and it angers me. When I go to Helsinki, I go to Tromsø, I come here, wherever I go, the people in those countries are not looking at the future, they are in it. And we in the United States, I think you would agree with me, are slow to go. And I hope that your comment at the beginning that America will be great again, and involved, and responsible. So I want to just make that comment, a little bit of a speech, but thank you, and I will sign.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Benewell. Do we have another one?
And if there's any other mayors out there, we would love to have your participation too. Or tribal chiefs, anybody who's the head of a local government.
This gentleman here?
This is my mayor. I'm Dean Treadwell from Alaska. A question for you both. Yeah, where is the mic?
It doesn't have to be an Alaskan who asks questions. I'll just say that.
And Richard, you're my hero too. So there you go. To both mayors, actually. Akureyri now has international connections with its flights and a beautiful aviation museum besides. And Alaska has to Europe Condor, which I think is changing now to Lufthansa and Iceland Air. What specifically can we do as citizens to develop more circumpolar aviation, as you mentioned, Ethan? And what are your next targets? Is it Iceland to Asia, Icelandair to Anchorage and then to Asia, Alaska Airlines to Asia, bringing in the Russian airlines? What are the next dots to connect?
I think there's all kinds of opportunities. I'd love to see a trans-Arctic flight pattern so people can get on a plane in Anchorage and get off in Reykjavik or get off in Helsinki or get
Not in Akureyri.
Well, we're going to Akureyri too, but we're going to go direct from Anchorage to Akureyri, just straight
Like
over,
that,
straight
like
over
that.
the top. And all of these are possible. These are questions for aviation experts, but they have to feel that there's a need that exists. And we cannot have the objections of national governments to these kind of desires of local people to connect with one another. When international disputes impede the ability of local people to connect, it makes the world a more distant and more divided place. And that ultimately makes it a more dangerous place.
I think I can agree with you, Mayor Berkowitz, on this matter. In Akureyri, our main challenge is to build up and develop the airport more, to get more international flights out there. So that is for now our biggest challenge. But hopefully we will have international flights soon to the north. Any more questions? Yes, one.
Hi, I actually had a similar question as Mead Treadle, but maybe from a different perspective, about circumpolar aviation. Being here in Iceland, we've seen actually the collapse of WOW Air in recent months, and Icelandair is facing many financial troubles as well and canceling routes to North America. So I'm wondering if there really is viable demand for building up circumpolar aviation, and if it's also economically or environmentally sustainable given movements in countries like Sweden to actually cut down on flights.
I haven't done a demand study. I will tell you, though, that any time that people in the north want to travel, it's incredibly expensive, and that flights in the south are frequently subsidized, and that oftentimes people in the north are overcharged in order to support cost structures in the south.
Mayor Berkowitz said it as well as I could say it.
Thank you.
More questions?
Hello, my name is Alexandra, and I represent here the Northern Forum International Organization, the secretariat of which is located in the city of Yakutsk, Sakha Republic, Russia. Northern Forum is not interstate but interregional organization, and it creates a platform for regional cooperation on the regional government level. So this morning you were talking about, Mayor Berkowitz, you were talking about a lot about the problems, the local problems that local governments faces, like in terms of garbage and road problems. But when we look up into west, we see, I'm speaking as a Yakutian citizen, a citizen of the city of Yakutsk, we see much difference from the Western Arctic from our Arctic. So we see that your cities are much more developed and in terms of infrastructure and everything, and we really want, and you were also talking about the regional cooperation in terms of sharing the knowledge. So we really want to how to learn and let you share the knowledge with us. So we invite you to cooperate with us, and just recently we organized a Youth Ecological Forum that was in Akureyri, and Mayor of Akureyri visited this forum and also gave some remarks on the morning session about it. And so there was a lot of young people who were really, how to say, like, really involved in the these types of problems that are happening in our cities, and how they have their own vision of it, and they have their own projects. So we creating a platform for project promotion. So we would really like for you to also maybe be involved in the project realization of the youth of the Arctic. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra. Do we have more questions from the audience? Yes, over there.
Hello, my name is Hrafnkell Gíslason. I'm the director of the Icelandic Communications Regulator. In Iceland, we have like 80% of homes passed with fiber optic. You mentioned before in your speech that there is a lack of fiber deployment in the Arctic region. And my question is maybe twofold. Do the areas or cities, towns in the Arctic region lack like policy statements, policy assistance in order to derive at a higher level of fiber optic deployment? Because we are at this position today because we started like 15 years ago to plan this and make the policy, and we have been working on this year by year. And by 2025, I believe that in Iceland we will have more or less 100% homes passed by fiber. So where is the problem? Is it a market problem? Is it a universal service obligation problem? Or is it just something that we need to coordinate? Because I think it's possible.
So I have to confess to a little bit of Iceland envy. Iceland has been remarkable in terms of its transformation from a generation or two ago where the cost of energy was high. It was very dependent on the outside world. The economy wasn't what it was. Then it went through a resurgence, and then it had an economic problem. And yet, at the same time, the people of Iceland have been educating themselves, focusing on affordable energy, focusing on looking to the future. And that kind of vision is absolutely critical to make a community and a country strong. You know, and I say there's a little bit of Iceland envy because the population of Anchorage is just about the same as the population of Iceland. And I tell my friends at home that if Iceland can do it, we can do it. 300,000 people here have done something that's remarkable. And I'm not just talking about on the football pitch. I am talking about setting a standard for affordable energy, setting a standard of being visionary. The challenge for having fiber across the north is that oftentimes the national governments are more focused on subsidizing defense or subsidizing other kinds of infrastructure that is remote from the people of the north. And if just a small portion of those defense expenditures or those other infrastructure developments were focused on bridging the digital divide, then we would all be connected, and this would be an argument that wasn't an argument, it would just be part of history.
So please, another question.
Thank you. My name is David Lubell. I'm with an international NGO called Welcoming International, and we work with municipalities around the world that are trying to become more inclusive to newcomers and to everyone. And my question is, my statement first, then a question. The statement is just there's over 265 million people on the move around the world right now, more than any other time in modern history. That's from conflict refugees, climate refugees, economic migrants. We see this as an opportunity and as an international organization. And I'm curious if you as mayors individually, but also as a collective through the new mayoral forum, could see trying to figure out how to embrace this movement of people as an opportunity for the Arctic is on the radar of the forum? And if so, how? Thank you.
Thank you for this good question. We, of course, see this as a big opportunity to have migrants to our areas, and this is one of the things that we will address in our work at the Arctic Mayors Forum. But now the time is up. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Berkowitz, for your lovely chat, and thank you to the audience.
Thank you.